Anyway, it seems odd performing or doing anything in the daytime. Oh, it's good. Daytime is for shoeing horses and things where you need to see what you're doing. I play better in the dark. I don't know what it is about music. In fact, I've never known anything about what it is about music, so I can't really discuss it. I've done a lot of interviews, and they always ask me questions about music. I end up talking about trucks. I can tell you about trucks. I can't tell you about music. All I know how to do is just do it. I don't know what happens. It's kind of a blind thing. I guess that's why some of the best guitar pickers I've ever heard were blind. Every single one of them. Like Doc Watson. Anyway. I'm trying to avoid playing my favorite song, but what the hell? It always comes out anyway. This sounds nice, this thing here, what the guitar is playing. I left it on automatic pilot. I don't even know what this song is that the guitar is trying to play. I'm going to have to push override. I went to the city yesterday. Yeah. They were holding up the bridge. I guess it's sort of a maintenance thing. But I didn't see any painters. It was just a suicide. They do that so the press can have like stories to write about our bridge. It is the most beautiful bridge. I mean, it's a work of art. I don't know why they have to have people all committing suicide all over it. I guess it's a tribute, though. Nice way to die. When you think about it. Oh, here. Just got the guitar in there. Playing guitar. Got the blues from my baby lemon by the San Francisco Bay. Oh, Shine she gone so far away. Didn't mean to treat her so bad. The best gal I ever have had. She said goodbye, like to make me cry. I wanna lay down and die. Haven't got a nickel, I ain't got a lousy dime. She don't come back, I think I'm gonna lose my mind. She ever come back to stay, gonna spend another brand new day walking with my baby down by the San Francisco Bay. Hey. Oh yeah, we were going to see Amy Lou. That's why we had to drive on the bridge. About the only time I ever go to that city is if some friend of mine's playing there. So I got 3 friends. That means I have to go to, when Jerry Jeff's in town, gotta drive across the bridge. When Guy Clark comes, get out your $3. I let Jan do all the driving, it's an old Volvo. I don't want to push it too hard. Well, the traffic was just barely crawling, and Volvos don't like to crawl. They don't have that crawler gear. They don't have enough fans or cooling and stuff like that. They like to overheat. They get homesick for Sweden. Took a shortcut through Sausalito. I don't know why we went through there. Look at the boats, I guess. Oh, to avoid the hill. When we came back up the Sausalito uphill in low gear with the temperature gauge climbing, having a race with a one-wheel bicycle, and it took an hour to get up to the entrance to the bridge. Well, I was glad. I've never been so glad to be in San Francisco as when we got off that bridge. Only I was too tired to enjoy the concert. Oh, Emmy Lou, she was great. She has a very hot band. Yeah, it was worth the trip. And you know what? She's playing, I guess you know, she's playing over there in Petaluma tonight. I really appreciate all of you folks coming here. You could have gone down there and seen Emmy Lou Harris. And she's got her dog with her, too. I got a little bit too much of the plug-in and the monitor for the guitar. Live a while in another city, just about to go insane. Sounded like I heard my baby the way she used to call my name. She ever come back to stay? Gonna spend another brand new day. Hey, walking with my baby down talking with my baby, riding, gliding, driving, jiving, talking with my baby down by the San Francisco Bay. Hey, hey. Thank you. Whoa. Wonderful. This is our beautiful Sonoma sunset light. Can you put a little fog over that? That would make me feel even more at home. Boy. Yeah. I don't know, it's like warming up for the evening. I know there's an evening around here somewhere. Well, I'm more of a daytime person, actually, when I'm not on the road, and I've been off the road for about 3 weeks, I know, because the guitar was totally out of tune when I picked it up this morning, and I realized I had tuned it down in West Virginia 3 weeks ago after a radio show, and flew out here and haven't even looked at a guitar since. I've been painting a boat. So it's kind of a thrill, huh? It's kind of nice to try and remember C, G, and E. Been on what you might call vacation. And going to see Emmy Lou was kind of a grim reminder about showbiz. Is there a dimmer switch on that? I'm sorry. I mean, it's bad enough it has to be daylight out. We don't really need any lights at all in here. You could save a lot on your electric bill. And I'll sing better, too. Oh, well, wow. Thank you so much. Golly, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. That's cool. Thank you. That's good. We were waltzing one night in Kentucky. Neath the beautiful harvest moon. And I was a boy that was lucky, but it all ended too soon. As I sit here alone in the moonlight, I can see your smiling face, and I long once more for your embrace and the beautiful Kentucky waltz. We were waltzing that night in Kentucky, neath the beautiful harvest moon. And I was a boy that was lucky, but it all ended too soon. As I sit here alone in the moonlight, I can see your smiling face, and I long once more for your embrace in the beautiful Kentucky waltz. Bill Monroe used to sing that song, and it's a little bit on the sentimental side, but it's kind of one of the things that got me steered into guitar picking when I was traveling with a rodeo back east of the J.E. Ranch Rodeo from Waverly, New York, owned and operated by Colonel Jimmy Eskew, and his son Junior Eskew was the world's champion trick and fancy roper, and I had his horse in my string as a groom, working for $2 a day, totally on a kind of a dream trip. I was 15 years old. I was going to learn to be a cowboy somehow in New York State. And when I left the J.E. Ranch, they told me I could come back as soon as I found them a string of Palomino mules. I'm still looking. Well, I ran into some guitar players around New York City, and one of them was Dave Van Rock. I met him later, though. This first batch I met was Tom Paley and a fellow named Roger Sprung, and a fellow from Virginia who played the fiddle named Harry Smith. And we used to play around Washington Square Park and had a lot of fun on Sunday afternoons, and that went on for 1947, 48, 49 or so. And I went off on some trips and started traveling around the country again, itchy foot. Came back to New York again, met Woody Guthrie, and got involved playing with Woody and traveling around a little bit with him and singing, and Woody told me lots of great stories. And then I went out to California with Woody in '54 and spent about a year out there at Will Gear's Summer Theater and down around Hollyweird, hanging out with a biker who was a movie actor. And then I got married and went to Europe and traveled around Europe on a motor scooter for about 6 years, just singing Woody Guthrie songs. Then I got sort of locked in. I was going to be a truck driver, but in fact I could have had a good steady job driving a garbage truck, but guitar has always been my ruin. So still in there. Here's a song I heard back in 1953 from Frank Hamilton, who's still going. He started that Old Town School of Folk Music, where Dave and I are going to be playing in the fall. That's an amazing place in Chicago, the Old Town School of Folk Music. It's kind of an anachronism. I mean, Chicago, it doesn't seem to be the sort of place where you'd hear somebody singing folk songs, but they got them. They got them there. This is a California song, really, called the South Coast. My name is Lonqueno de Castro. My father was a Spanish grandee, but I won my wife in a card game. To hell with those lords or the sea. Well, the South Coast is a wild coast and lonely. You might win in a game at hold on, but a lion still rules the barranca, and a man there is always alone. In my youth, I had a Monterey homestead. Fields, creeks, mountains, all mine. And I built me a snug little shanty. And I roofed it, floored it with pine. I had a Bronco, buckskin. Like a bird, he flew over the trail. When I'd ride out 40 miles every Friday for some grub and to pick up my mail. Local monitor. I sat in a card game at Hold On, thank you. I played there with an hombre named Juan. After I'd won all his money, I staked all against his daughter, Dawn. Dawn, I picked up the ace, I'd won her. My heart, which was down at my feet, jumped up to my throat in a hurry. Like a young summer's day, she was sweet. He opened the door to the kitchen and called the girl in with a curse, saying, "Take her, goddamn you, you won her. She's yours now for better or worse." Her arms had to tighten around me as we rode up the hills from the south. Not a word did I get from her that day, nor a kiss from her pretty red mouth. Can I have a little more power in the monitor, please? Vocal. That night I got hurt in a landslide. Crushed hip, twice broken bone. She saddled her pony like lightning and rode off for a doctor at Cologne. A lion screamed in the barranca. Bucky bolted and it fell on the slide. My young wife lay dead in the moonlight. My heart died that night with my bride. Well, the South Coast is a wild coast and lonely. You might win in a game at Hulon, but a lion still rules the barranca, and a man there a man there is always alone. The South Coast, written by Lillian Boss Ross, who lived down in Big Sur. I met Lillian. I went to visit her one time. I was very excited to meet the woman who wrote the original words of that song and had a different tune to it. Time I heard it, she wrote it a different melody. She had a kind of a Carter family kind of a melody onto it. My name is Lonino de Castro. My father was a Spanish grandee. She sang sort of like that. Straight C major key. But a fellow named Sam Eskin over in Woodstock, New York, who drove around in a Land Rover with a tape recorder collecting music in odd corners of the world where you couldn't get with a Chevy. So, yeah, one of my favorite records that he recorded was Sounds of a Dog, wild dogs barking on a beach in Mexico with 20-foot rollers coming in. That's some of the most powerful music I ever heard. Picture that. That was before I met Dave Van Runk. Still. I'm trying to think when I really did first meet Dave. I think I met him sometime in a dream. On that rodeo in Pittsburgh, where it was raining. The old rodeo clown was singing to us up there in the stands. We put in quarters in a hat. That was my first kind of folk music influence. But Dave, he was in the Merchant Marine, sailed out of New York. He can tell you about it. And how we ever met, I think it was when Bob Dylan was a pup and had just arrived in New York. And I just got back to New York from Europe. It was about 1961. And Bob was hanging out with Dave, sleeping on a couch. And Bob spent about 6 months on Dave's couch, I think. Finally, I got him to move into the Earl Hotel with me and Peter Lafarge. And we were all on the same floor together, on the third floor there. Bob was in 305, I was in 312, and Peter was in 310. Pacing back and forth, up and down, all hours of the day and night, waiting for his Columbia record deal. I heard his boot heels wearing out the rug there for about a year and a half. I think finally Columbia Records paid for a new rug in that Earl Hotel. And then the Muleskinner Blues was coming down the track, and this is an old Bill Monroe song, Gotta Wear a Hat for this. And Woody had dropped me off at Will Gear's place in Topanga Canyon, where I met Darrell Adams, who was the closest thing to a mule skinner I'd ever met at that time. Darrell had been a cowboy and a logger in Oregon and taught him house fencing and the 5-string banjo. You know what I mean? They didn't have any 5-string teachers in Oregon. Nobody knew how to play a 5-string. All they knew how to do was run a skidder. And he was a choker setter and a windfall bucker. Windball? No. Windfall bucker. And but Darrell had something extra. He had a Chinese kind of beard. And he had sort of Japanese calligraphy written on his banjo, and it was some kind of a hip statement that Jack Kerouac wished he'd have wrote. Darrell played the 5-string banjo and lived in a cave. And when I first met him, I'd heard about him so much that I didn't need an introduction. I just walked right up to him and said, "You're Darrell Adams." And he said, "Yup." And I knew we were going to be friends for life, or pretty near. And so, and we ended up traveling around Europe, but that's another story. We met in Topanga Canyon. I says, "You got your banjo with you?" He says, "Nope." Well, we borrowed a banjo from Bess Hawes, who lived right down the road. She went and got her a banjo. Only took her a few minutes. I said, "Well, what do you know? Do you know the Muleskinner Blues?" He said, "Yup." So we started playing the Muleskinner Blues, and we got right up on stage. There wasn't no time for rehearsal. And we played it. It sounded so good as you'd think we'd been rehearsing it for a week. And this became our theme song later when we took Europe by storm on a Lambretta and a Vespa motor scooter. And it goes something like this. No, I ain't gonna go in C. C's a nice, pretty key. That's for love songs. It ain't got the power for the Muleskinner Blues. We need something a little bit more super heterodyne like E. Good morning, Captain. Good morning, son. Good morning, Captain. Good morning, son. Do you need another Muleskinner out on your new blood line? You lay Hello. work, I'm rolling all the time. I like to work, I'm rolling all the time. I can pop my initials on a mule's behind. Working on the new road, $1 and a dime a day. Hey, working on that new road, make $1 and a dime a day. Get 6 women waiting on a Saturday night just to draw my pay. Hey, little water boy, bring your water round. Oh, hey, water boy, won't you bring your water round? If you don't like you done, set that water bucket down. Could use a little more on the vocal and the monologue. Thank you very much. Doodle-dee. The Muleskinner Blues. Well, and that was done, never could be done without my pal Daryl there singing. He had the kind of a deep, bassy kind of voice. And so when I went to Europe, 55, I'd only been there a few weeks when I got kind of strung out, tired of singing alone, sent for Daryl. Sent him his fare, and he hopped a bus for L.A. to New York and got on a ship and came over to join us in London. And it was getting cold then, winter, coldest winter in 70 years. We started singing in these little coffee houses, and it was a whole new thing developing over there at the time. The popularity of American folk music was really taking off, and they also had parallel with this a thing called skiffle music, which was based on early jug band music, but some of these English groups would get one fellow with a 4-string guitar who knew one chord, or maybe 2 chords, and somebody with a harmonica that could blow. Didn't have any ear for music, but he could blow. And somebody tapping his foot, and somebody beating on some other noisemakers, and they got together and they called them skiffle groups. And it got to be a big boom and a lot of business, and they were having all these skiffle clubs all over England playing this skiffle. Some of them actually got good. There was one, Chris Barber's jazz band with Lonnie Donegan and the skiffle group. And they were good, and they did songs like Rock Holland Line, which became a big hit, Lead Belly song. And the flip side of that was a song called Woody Guthrie tune called Coulee Dam, the song Woody had written for the Bonneville Power Administration back when they just built the dam, and they thought it was a good idea to make a bunch of electricity to go around shocking people with and charging them for it. And that was a great song. I'd never heard it done by an Englishman, but even with him doing it, it sounded great. Lonnie Donegan, he took his name after Lonnie Johnson, who was my original guitar hero back when I was traveling with the J.E. Ranch Rodeo. And here's that Woody Guthrie song, kind of more of Woody's version of it, you might say. Oh, the world is 7 wonders, so the travelers always tell. Some gardens and some towers, I guess you know them well. But now the greatest wonder is in Uncle Sam's fair land. It's that keen Columbia River and the big Grand Coulee Dam. She heads up the Canadian Rockies where the crystal waters glide, comes rumbling down the canyon to meet that salty tide of the wide Pacific Ocean where the sun sets in the west, and the big Grand Coulee country in the land I love the best. Uncle Sam took up the challenge in the year of 33 for the farm around the factory and all of you and me. He said, roll along Columbia, you can ramble to the sea, but a river while you're rambling, you can do some work for me. Now in Washington and Oregon, you hear the factories hum, making chrome and making manganese and light aluminum. And there rose a flying fortress now to fight for Uncle Sam, spawned upon the King Columbia by the big Grand Coulee Dam. She heads up the Canadian Rockies where the crystal waters glide, comes rumbling down the canyon to meet that salty tide of the wide Pacific Ocean where the sun sets in the west, and the big Grand Coulee country and land I love the best. In the misty crystal glitter of that wild and windward spray, mine fought the pounding waters amid a watery grave. She tore their boats to splinters, but gave men dreams to dream of the day the Coulee Dam would cross that wild and wasted stream. She heads up the Canadian Rockies where the crystal waters glide, comes rumbling down the canyon to meet that salty tide of the wide Pacific Ocean where the sun sets in the west, and the big Grand Coulee country and the land I love the best. Thank you very much. Well, I picked up a lot of interesting information about life and ideas, and I didn't take everything Woody said for gospel because he ranted and raved like a madman sometimes, but I think in his maddest moments, some of his truest moments, and some of his more relaxed moments, he was just plain old bubbling, great fantasy stuff that would put Cat Stevens to shame. One of the biggest and best paid trips I ever was on was around the world tour with Cat Stevens. I can't knock Cat Stevens. Cat Stevens introduced me to the first kangaroo I ever met. We had to go to Australia. Now that sounds kind of silly, but that was the facts of the case. It was all done with a travel agent, and there were koala bears, and there was an agent from Chicago there who greeted me at the airport. He flew all the way up from L.A. just to see me off. I was very moved by this bit of transcendental meditation for someone in the Hollywood end of the business to actually come up just to shake my hand and wish me a good tour. I remember he told me about it when he told me about it when I was living up in Mendocino. Andrea Lamb was there. Antonia, forgive me. It's only been like 26 years. You look the same, darling. Did you bring your banjo? Oh, great. Maybe we can have a little session later. Yeah. Bob Gibson was there. Bob wrote a song about me. But that's another song and another story. The Cat Stevens thing is leading us nowhere because I don't do Cat Stevens music. All I got out of it was a broken back, never got paid for the whole Australian tour, and they stole my Martin guitar, and it was one that never came back. Had another guitar stolen later, which did come back, actually stolen earlier, missing for 23 years, and it was returned to me 23 years later by the person who had it, but it was didn't look like the same guitar. It looked like he had carefully removed it from the case and drove over it with a truck 4 times. It needed to be glued up for about 5 years, and now it's actually playable, but it doesn't have very good tone or anything, but it's kind of like a museum piece. It's fun to have it around and look at it, and I strum it and think of it. It was the one I had with my friend Woody, and Bob Gibson saw it maybe, and Dave, I don't even know if Dave ever saw that guitar, but show it to you. It's kind of like an old friend, you know, running into somebody that you thought maybe skipped the planet. They got people lining up for miles just to jump off of that Golden Gate Bridge, but there's better ways to do it, folks. And then Woody wrote this song called The Ladies' Auxiliary, which was something to do with a union that Woody had been writing some songs for unions, like the United Mine Workers and the Merchant Marine Sailors Union of the East Coast, NMU, National Maritime Union. This one was a group called the Ladies' Auxiliary of the, I don't know what it was, the Furriers Union. They approached Woody with this request to please write us a publicity song. And he said, as Woody told it, I was just a kid then, and I was watching Woody as he was telling these stories to these little small groups of people. He says, he says they would like to have the most words and the least ideas. No, the least words and the most ideas. And everything has got to rhyme with Ladies' Auxiliary. So I wrote him up this little ditty. It went like this. Here we go. Get in there. Oh, the Ladies' Auxiliary, it's a good auxiliary, about the best auxiliary that you ever did see. You need an auxiliary, see the Ladies' Auxiliary. It's that ladies' auxiliary. I ain't a-knocking on our women, 'cause I love 'em as good as you. But women's mighty funny, we all know that is true. Riding on our subway trains or walking on our streets, these things our women wear for hats has really got me beat. Some wind around like serpents, some look like ice cream cones, and some like flower gardens that blossom on their domes. Some look like grocery baskets, and some look like rat traps, and you can't tell if they're going out or just getting back. The ladies' auxiliary, it's a good auxiliary, about the best auxiliary that you ever did see. If you need an auxiliary, see the ladies' auxiliary. It's that ladies' auxiliary. Here's a cowboy song that I learned from Woody when I was hanging out with him. He had it on a record. I'd seen it in songbooks when I was starting to try to learn the guitar with just G and C, and I noticed it in there along with the Red River Valley, but it seemed kind of corny and it didn't really turn me on. It was called the Buffalo Skinners, and when I heard Woody's version of it, it really took me for a ride, and I asked him about it. If he would be so kind as to show me just how it was that he played it that way, because it was so different and strange sounding. But Woody wasn't in a musical mood that day, I guess. He says, "It's on the record, Jack." Well, I found the record. It was an old 78 of his that I'd played just the day before, and I knew where it was. It was on the top of the stack that Arlo had stacked up on the floor to step up on the piano stool with. So I got it off there and I played it, and for the next 10 years I played it like a sort of a dead ringer imitation of Woody's way of doing it, but through the years it's changed into a whole other different thing, but it's sort of originally based on Woody's version, not that other one out of the book. They're both valid in their own way, but like here, I got to sing this one down in the Paladuro Canyon in Texas, where the first time that somebody decided not to kill off all the buffalo and leave a few for us to look at, other than the one on the nickel, of course. And I'm glad we have that, but it's nice to have some live ones around. Oh, I know they get on the railroad and they mess up the trains. But Charles Goodnight decided to save about 400 head of buffalo down there, that Paladuro Canyon in Texas. So here's the kind of a song that they sang about their own lives, the buffalo skinners who were just going out there so as to deprive the Indians of their food and whole way of life. Buffalo Skinners. Come all you old-time cowboys and listen to my song. Please do not grow weary, I'll not detain you long. Concerning some wild cowboys did agree to go spend one summer pleasant on the trail of buffalo. Well, I found myself in Griffin in the year of 83, when a well-known famous drover come walking up to me, saying, how do you do, young fellow, and how'd you like to go and spend one summer pleasant on the trail of buffalo? Well, me being out at work right then, this drover I did say, this going out on the Buffalo Road depends upon your pay. But if you pay good wages, transportation to and fro, think I might go with you on the hunt of buffalo. Yes, I will pay good wages, transportation too, if you'll agree to work for me until the season's through. But if you do grow homesick and you try to run away, you'll starve to death out on the trail, and also lose your pay. Well, with all this flattering talking, signed up quite a train. Some 10 or 12 in number, some able-bodied men. Our trip, it was a pleasant one as we hit the westward road until we reached Old Boggy Creek in old New Mexico. Was there our pleasures ended and our troubles all begun. And a lightning storm it hit us and it made the cattle run. Got all full of stickers from the cactus that did grow at Las Watson for to pick us up from the hills of Mexico. Well, our working season ended, the drover would not pay. You went and drunk too much, you're all in debt to me. But the cowboys never had heard of such a thing as a bankrupt law. So we left that drover bones to bleach on the plains of the buffalo. Buffalo Skinners. Thank you. It's wonderful to suddenly, finally, as the sun sinks slowly in the south, except for that one lamp there. To get in the mood. I remember Frank had that song, which he later taught to me, called South Coast, which I sang earlier, the Lillian Boss Ross number. I asked him, first time I heard him play it, I said, hey, what was that song you played last night on the porch? It was raining, you know, thunder and lightning, and it was a great moment and wonderful song. What was that? And he said, South Coast. I said, yeah, South Coast. South Coast, that's it, South Coast. Yeah, Frank. Hey, Frank, would you play that song right now? He kind of looked out the window, stared at the mountains. They were getting taller as we were going west in North Carolina. We left that farm, and behind we were heading west to the Smoky Mountains. We were going to hear some real live hillbilly music in a day or so. He's looking. I said, Frank, hey, I tried to catch his attention. Would you sing that song, Frank? No, couldn't play it. And I found out he couldn't play that song unless it was raining. It just something about the mood or something. It just had to be raining and thunder and lightning. And I didn't get to hear it again until we were in New Orleans about 3 weeks later. It was worth waiting for, though. Mood sometimes, I don't know, it's something to do with day and night. And like playing at folk festivals, I play a few, less and less. The folk festivals are a wonderful thing. People get together and share their interest and their love of the music and everything. And they're all sitting out there eating their sandwiches or changing diapers on the baby or whatever, and it's daytime singing. It's distracting. I can't get with it. It either has to be raining or nighttime. I tried wearing sunglasses. Doesn't work. I tried hanging upside down in the back seat of a Land Rover while the driver had two wheels off a cliff. That was better. I sang the best time I ever sang Kentucky Waltz was done in the back seat of a Land Rover, hanging upside down. I sang in a bathtub one time, but I really prefer it when it rains. Natural rain. You can't beat it. Of course, you don't want to get your guitar wet either. You got to have a big hat or a good umbrella. Then Bob Dylan, that's where I met Dave Van Ronk. See, I came back from Europe, went to visit Woody. He was getting pretty advanced in his illness, and he was in the hospital, pretty permanently in the hospital, but they let him out Sundays to visit his friends because that hospital was such a horrible place for friends and loved ones to go see him. It was kind of like a dungeon. They had him in a mental hospital in New Jersey. Outdoors in New Jersey, I feel like all of New Jersey is a mental hospital, indoors or outdoors. Have you ever driven on the New Jersey Turnpike? You know what I mean? But still, it's nicer out than in, and so they used to let him go. And his friends, the Gleasons, who lived in East Orange, had a pleasant little apartment on the second floor, and they would collect him with their car, and Peter LaFars and Dave Van Ronk and Bob Dylan and any friends who loved Woody would go over there on Sundays and visit Woody, and Sid Gleason would cook some beans and cornbread and home kind of cooking for Woody, who came from Oklahoma, and she was from Montana. And they had stories to tell, and they really appreciated Woody. So it was a much more convenient scene. I went to visit Woody in the hospital. It wasn't a weekend, and I was just off the ship from Europe yesterday, and I took the bus over to New Jersey, and I found Woody there, and that's where I met Bob. He happened to be visiting that day. Bob had just come in from the Midwest a few months earlier and was hanging out with Dave. So I guess Bob probably introduced me to Dave, I think. Anyway, or I met Dave over at the Gleason's house. I'm writing my memoirs now, but there's very little to relate because I can't remember anything. I was there. It's going to be a great story if any of you were there and remember, see me after the show. Rock, are you here? Huh? Ah, great. Oh. This is a song that I was like, just split up with my second wife, which was probably due to some bad habits that I picked up from Woody. Every time I got in a divorce, they'd cite Woody Guthrie as a reason for... And so there was, everything's got a good side and a bad side. And I'm not sorry, but parting is always sorrowful. And I was feeling sorry that day because I just found out she was leaving. And I had a gig, though, and it was, God bless showbiz. I probably would have went nuts if I'd had to stay around New York City and watch her pack. I had to go to this gig over in Pennsylvania somewhere, and as luck would have it, it snowed that day. And the person who was putting me up in a cabin up on top of a mountain, and we couldn't get the door open. It snowed so hard, and we were stuck up there. And we had plenty of food. He had a refrigerator full of venison, a big bottle of Cutty Sark, and a Bob Dylan record. Don't think twice. It's all right. I played that 2,700 times a day, and I learned a new song out of it. 3 days later, the person who was there that day, that third day, he walked all the way across miles of snow. We had to give him dry clothes. He's here this evening. We jumped in my Bell telephone truck and drove up to New York City, where they were having a little open mic night down at the Gaslight, and Dave was there, and Bob was there, and Peter Lafarge, and a couple of unidentified tourists from New Jersey. And we were just a small group of people in this dark, little, damp, drippy little place called the Gaslight. Well, that was all. Peter and Mary were there. Noel was out of town somewhere. We knew him as Peter, Noel, and Mary. They later got famous as Peter, Paul, and Mary. Noel had to change his name. I still think of him as Noel, though. Noel did the greatest toilet imitation. This is back then. On that same microphone, I thought, where Noel did his great toilet imitation, I did my first attempt at Don't Think Twice. And it was just freshly learned, and I was feeling kind of brave to do it in front of anybody, especially the author. But since it was a cozy little crowd, I started to sing the song, and I got about halfway through the second verse. Good coffee. And Bob jumped up in the aisle. I could just see his shadow, and he waved his arm at me, and he said, "I relinquish it to you, Jack." Swear to God. I've been singing it ever since. Got more miles out of this old Bob Dylan song than Hoagie's Got Goats or the Red River Valley. Ain't ain't no use to sit and wonder why, babe. If any don't know by now. And it ain't no use to sit and wonder why, babe. It'll never do somehow. When you rooster crows at the break of dawn, look out your window and I'll be gone. You're the reason I'm a-traveling on. But don't think twice, it's all right. And it ain't no use in calling out my name, gal, like you never done before. Ain't no use in calling out my name, gal, 'cause I can't hear you anymore. Thinking and a wondering, walking down the road, how I once loved a woman, a child, I'm told. I give her my heart, but she wanted my soul. But don't think twice, it's all right. And it ain't no use in calling out my name, gal, like you never done before. Ain't no use in calling out my name, gal, 'cause I can't hear you anymore. Thinking and a wondering, walking down the road, how I once loved a woman, a child, I'm told. I give her my heart, but she wanted my soul. But don't think twice, it's all right. And it ain't no use in turning on your light, babe, the light I never knowed. Ain't no use in turning on your light, babe, 'cause I'm on the dark side of the road. Still I wish there was something you would do or say to try and make me change my mind and stay. We never did too much talking anyway, but don't think twice, it's all right. So long, honey babe, where I'm bound I can't tell. Goodbye is too good a word, babe, so I'll just say fare thee well. I ain't saying you treated me unkind, you could have done better, but I don't mind. You just kind of wasted my precious time, but don't think twice, it's all right. And thank you very much. And that gal finally got happily married and has about 7 children, and we're still friends, and I too was happily married forever after. a little while later on, and sure has been a pleasure being here with you, and I'm sure looking forward to Dave Van Runk. He can fill you in on some of the details that I left hedgy, because he was there watching while I was groping around in the dark. Thank you very much. Awful long song. I could do that. Yeah, I could do a little bit. I'll do the Reader's Digest version because I don't want to be running over time here. Had a request for that song, which is the first song I wrote and the second last song that I wrote. I wrote 2 songs. I've often wanted to write. I still do want to write. I think there's a future for me as a writer if I can just find the right antique typewriter. Got to have just the right amount of rust on it. Thank you. Oh, cool. This is that long, epic narrative poem that took place around the setting of North Carolina in the 1953 in the summer there, with Guy Carrowan and Frank Hamilton heading for the hills of western North Carolina to find some of the old music and the musicians that still knew how to play it. And we found a few. Recently on a trip in West Virginia, played 3 gigs there, and a radio program called Mountain Stage, which is coming out soon on West Virginia Public Radio. I don't know, haven't announced it yet. We taped it about a month ago. It should be, I think they're going to play it in July. And I was on with some very wonderful people, including the guy who's playing guitar with Emmy Lou tonight down in Petaluma, and Buckwheat Zydeco was on that show. But my guitar has been out of sorts ever since that airplane ride. I had to change planes in Atlanta, and somehow the guitar doesn't like riding on a wheelchair, so Atlanta may be my undoing. I'm going to have to buy my own airplane if I keep this flying up. I don't like flying around in other people's planes. But just kind of it's just an ego trip. Oh, I like breathing my own air. Huh? I tell you what, I don't like sharing the road with my fellow Americans, too. That's another quote. You can quote me on that. I'm a driver. I'm a picker and a driver. I'm not a businessman. In the entertainment business, such as it is, whatever that was. But I really loved picking. Used to love picking. I love driving. Like driving things with wheels on them, or things with legs under, especially if they got 4 or even 3. The wheelchair ride through the Atlanta airport, the guitar hasn't been the same since. You said it. And you can tell your friends that you heard it here. That was Johnny stepping out of thousands of store windows all over America. Call for Philip Morris. Yes. Where was I? Oh, North Carolina, 1953. Crank it back, crank it back. We left Carowin's farm that morning after a wonderful breakfast and headed down the highway, all packed into our little old war surplus blue Plymouth 4-door sedan with Guy driving and me riding shotgun and Frank in the back seat practicing the banjo. Frank was always in the back seat practicing the banjo because he didn't have a driver's license. I think he was about 17. He was very advanced, though, as a musician. One of the hottest young musicians I had ever met at that time, and still is. I said, "Hey, Frank, what was that you played last night, man? Remember it was raining and thunder and lightning?" He just stared out the window and said, "South Coast." "That's it, Frank, the South Coast, that's the one. You sang it last night. I couldn't believe my ears, man. Would you sing that song? Sing it again. Could you sing it for me? Just kind of refresh my memory a little bit. It was so good. What was that? How'd it go?" He just kept staring out the window, looking at them hills turning into mountains. Frank was yearning for that hillbilly music, and he had that look in his eye, and I knew that I couldn't get through. So I hung up. I turned around and started looking west. I didn't look at him again until we got out of the car in Fletcher about 4 hours later. A little fiddle contest going on there. And there we met old Maggie's old man. Maggie's old man was a banjo player, and he had a great big old black cowboy hat with a high crown and kind of thing they used to wear in Wyoming back in the 1920s. And all kind of picturesque little doodads and straps and things hanging all over him, like a powder horn, and of course his banjo is 5-string. And he played really well. And I remember Frank in the back seat there asking him if he was the author of "Oh, Where Is Little Maggie?" You know, because he was married to Maggie. He's known as Maggie's old man. He said, "Yes, I wrote that." Frank was ecstatic, of course. I wasn't so sure, but I am now. I really think he did write that. And there's people down there, I was there last year, Maggie Valley, North Carolina. It's not the same. It's been turned into a sort of a Disneyland type deal. When I was there, I mean, it was only about 3 houses. We got to the town, sign said Maggie, population 12. He didn't say nothing. We just kept rolling on through town. We were through in a minute and on up the other side of the mountain, and then he hollered, grab a left, and we turned left and went through some gate and up a dirt road and ended up in a cornfield. Couldn't drive no more. Got out of the car, and Maggie's old man got out his banjo and started playing this song. He started calling the square dance. We all started dancing around in the cornfield till it was getting dark. We had to turn on our engine and turn on our headlights to see where we were dancing, and then the whiskey ran out. Did I mention the whiskey? There was this little bottle of homemade whiskey, and we'd never tasted anything like that before. Corn liquor. So smooth. We had no idea. And it just sort of got empty somehow. So me being the eldest, I was 21, I was voted the one to go into town, and, well, they drove me in. But I had to go up the stairs and knock on the door and wake up the high sheriff, who was already in bed. It was after 8 o'clock. And wake him up and buy another bottle of this wonderful homemade whiskey, which he had a big smile on his face. He was in his nightshirt. He didn't seem the least bit shy about telling me. He had a big smile on his face. $3, please. Some of the best whiskey I ever tasted. And we went back up there, and it was darker, and we turned on our lights, and he got the banjo out, but we were a little bit too lost to keep dancing, and we realized that we better head up the road. So the square dance got forgotten about, and we went on up the trail in search of the cabin. Well, it was too dark to find anything, but he knew the way, and we got there, and it was up a ladder and kind of in a little hatch in the floor, and Maggie was waiting for us with a rolling pin in her hand. But he explained to her how we'd given him a ride home and everything, so she put down the rolling pin and smiled and said, come on in, y'all. And she pulled back the covers on a great big bed that they had there, 4 posters. She said, y'all boys get in here and get some shut-eye, because we get up early in the morning around here. Get you some sleep. And we did. We piled in. Excuse me. I live over on the coast, and we have a lot of air pollution over there. Mostly it's dolphin farts. We were sleeping pretty good, and all of a sudden I heard a big noise come. They were having a. Well, I figured out they were staging a big family feud in our honor. Later in the morning, we helped them pick up the spilt milk and broken glass and get the kids off to the hospital. And he says, boys, he says, I'm a good old man, ain't I? And we told him, yes, you are. Smartest thing we ever done. Yep. He says, boys, I'm going to show you a place where you can see all over the world. And he took us up there. It was about 2 miles away, straight up in the sky. Looking to the north, we were treated to a sight of some mountains that just went right up steeply and disappeared into the clouds of Smoky Mountains. He explained to us we were looking at the south end of Kentucky and the southwest corner of Virginia. And over there to the left, a little bit further in the west, barely visible through a notch was the Grand Tetons in western Wyoming. And yeah, it was right. He wasn't kidding us. You could see all over the world from up there, and we were high up. We coasted all the way to Nashville, Tennessee from there, 600 miles, only used 2 gallons of gas. There we got out our guitars and busked for milk and crackers until we got enough money up to go see the Grand Ole Opry. And then we headed down to New Orleans, and of course we were looking for Billy Fair and his 5-string banjo, but that's a whole nother story. How we found Billy in a cloud of sugar dust at the Grand Monde Cafe in New Orleans, and he took us to 912 Toulouse Street, where we got lost into a dream with Jack Kerouac's old chair and a 3-legged cat and never came back. Thank you. To be continued.